G'day, how you doing? This is Matt, and we're continuing our series, The Next Steps for the Church, trying to imagine what kind of church we want to be. And this is a conversation, particularly for those of us at Citywide Baptist Church, but hopefully a conversation that's useful for anybody thinking about the future of the church. Today I want to talk about the practice of Sabbath. Now, one of the diseases of the modern world is so many of us are time poor. We carry devices with us that continually remind us of the unresolved things in life. And not only the unresolved things in life, but the unresolved things in the world. It's like we keep getting bombarded by information all the time. And I think in many ways we need the practice of Sabbath more than ever. I've got another video series called The Apprentice Toolbox, and I was just talking about the author Eugene Peterson in one of the recent episodes of that video series. And in the book Christ Plays in 10,000 Places, Eugene Peterson says this. He says, if there is no Sabbath, no regular and commanded not working, not talking, we soon become totally absorbed in what we're doing and saying. And God's work is either forgotten or marginalized. When we work, we're most God-like, he says, which means that it is our work, that in our work, it is easiest to develop God pretensions. Unsabbathed, our work becomes the entire context in which we define our lives. We lose the capacity to sing, "This is my Father's world," and end up chirping little self-centered ditties about what we're doing and feeling. He says, I don't see any way out of it. If we're going to live appropriately in creation, we must keep the Sabbath. We must stop running around long enough to see what he has done and is doing. We must shut up long enough to hear what he has said and is saying. All our ancestors agree that without silence and stillness, there is no spirituality, no God-attentive, God-responsive life. What Peterson is saying is that the idea of Sabbath is a revolutionary act. What you're doing by taking a Sabbath is saying through your actions that this world doesn't revolve around me. I can take time off and somehow God is able to continue to manage the world. And that's really what Sabbath literally means. The word Sabbath literally means stopping, time out. It's not particularly even a spiritual word. It means rest. And I think we have to relearn the art of rest, to take a day a week where we're not running a million miles an hour to get some agenda done, where we can stop. And in that stopping, we can reacquaint ourselves with the whole world. We can reacquaint ourselves with family and relationships. And there goes the telephone, which is just a reminder that, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, there's always things coming at you from left, right, and centre. And our task is to allow ourselves to stop. And that's what Sabbath really is. But it is a conscious choice. Mark, of course, one of the dangers can be we can become legalistic about Sabbath, and that really was what had happened in Jesus' time, and the Pharisees and the Sadducees, were very religious about it, and Jesus took them on, and he said, "Come on, the Sabbath is made for man, not man for the Sabbath," and he pointed out that he was Lord even of the Sabbath, which was basically saying he was God. That was in Mark chapter 2. You see the story of Jesus talking about the Sabbath. But it's important to hear him say the Sabbath was made for us. The Sabbath was an institution of God for us to stop. It's like we are wired to need that day off, which is what a Sabbath is meant to be. Hebrews 4:9-11 says, there remains then a Sabbath rest for the people of God. For anyone who enters God's rest also rests from his own work, just as God did from his. Let's therefore make every effort to enter that rest so that no one will fall by following their example of disobedience. He's talking about in that context, saying, look, guys, Sabbath is still important. Rest is still important. And in our modern world, rest is a revolutionary act. You are saying the world will be okay if you're not running at 1,000,000 miles an hour. So the church we want to be is a church where people know how to rest, where people know how to, and it's very specific, take a day off a week. That's what a Sabbath means, to take a day off to recreate. And it will take planning, it will take conscious choice, and it won't be simple. For me, as a pastor, Sunday, which is often the Sabbath for a lot of people, it's something about coming together on a Sunday, which is lovely about church, where you can be engaged with the Word of God, but then have the rest of the day free to engage with family or do whatever. For many people, Sunday is the Sabbath, but obviously for a pastor, Sunday isn't so much a Sabbath, it's a day of work. And so for me, I take my Fridays and consciously take a Friday off. I'm in the fortunate position where I can do that. And take the time to take it easy, to pray. Sometimes I'll write because that's recreational for me. Sometimes I'll go for a walk on the beach with the dog. But I know when I don't have that day, when I live 7 days a week, there's something that goes missing for me. And I know Sabbath is necessary for me. I also know it's a countercultural act. And I want to encourage you to think about, what does it mean for you to have Sabbath? What does it mean for us to be a church that encourages Sabbath? What does it mean for us to take this idea seriously? And how do we organise ourselves towards this end? Just something to think about as we think about the next steps for the church. Thanks for being with me.